Whether it's wicked weather, natural disaster, or just a worthy cause, there are always situations where classic crowdfunding through charity donations can be very helpful. But in the wake of the FTC lawsuit against 4 cancer charities, claiming they cheated consumers out of $187 million, how do you know when an outstretched hand or passionate social media plea is legit and putting your hard-earned dollars to work for the better? Our guest is Vice President of Marketing and CFO of Charity Navigator, the organization known as America's largest charity evaluator, Sandra Miniutti. Sandra, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Sandra, is it fair to say that when we look at this story from the FTC and find these 4 groups called sham charities, that it's really not a surprise to people like yourself because these stories are out there, but the immense amount of money that was basically caught and frauded here is just astounding.
Yeah, it's just a shame, and I think many members of the public will be shocked to hear that it was $187 million that went to these scam artists. And unfortunately, much of what they did was legal, and so that's how they were able to get away with it for so many years.
Now, when you say that it's legal then, so how then is a person supposed to know the difference? Because I know many times people get approached by charities, they check on the web, they look at websites, they check for reviews, they do things, and they find that everything's on the up and up most of the time, don't they?
Most of the time, yes. I think if you would have kicked the tires on these organizations, you would have quickly have seen that very few pennies on the dollar were actually going to their charitable missions. So I think there was some red flags here with these particular organizations. The unfortunate thing, though, is there's no law in the United States that requires charities to spend a set portion of their budget on their charitable mission, and I think that's surprising to many donors.
Let's get to those red flags then. What are they?
Well, first of all, you don't want to support a charity where the vast majority of the money is going to telemarketing firms, as it was in this case. So those are those for-profit companies calling you at dinner time. They're calling on behalf of causes that really tug at your heartstrings. In this case, cancer, breast cancer, people dealing with hospice. It's very hard for donors to say no to that, and telemarketing firms know that.
Well, let me stop you there for a second, Sandra. Then how do you tell the difference if somebody calls up and says, I'm such and such representing the ABC cancer firm and I'm looking for a donation? How do you tell the difference just over the phone?
Really, the best way and the safest thing to do for you as a consumer is to hang up the phone. Don't ever give over the phone, because most of these cases are for-profit firms calling. They can keep 85 cents on the dollar, 95 cents on the dollar. Sometimes we even find that charities are paying the companies, that the companies are keeping everything in addition to a fee from the charity. So they're very inefficient ways to give and scams in and of themselves.
So are we talking then about looking for charities that come through the mail, that approach you personally, that are on the web? How do you know which ones then are legit?
I think the better way to approach charitable giving is flip the situation around entirely. Find causes that you are passionate about, look for charities doing that work, vet them, contribute to them directly, and stick with them over time. And if you follow that process, you'll feel much better about saying no at the grocery store or over the phone, because you know you've given your money to a legitimate group doing good work.
You mentioned, of course, that there's really no law against this and how much money they spend. Is there any legislation out there? Is there anybody looking into trying to at least get these people to spend the money where they say they're going to?
There has been some attempts to put a minimum requirement in place, but so far the Supreme Court has shot that down. You as a consumer, the only recourse you have is when you get that telemarketing call, you can ask how much money is going to the charity versus the for-profit firm. Of course, you're hoping that they'll be honest and upfront with you, and there have been cases and times when they just flat out lie.
Now, I found it interesting, too. We went to your website, Charity Navigator, and there happens to be the Clinton Foundation that's there. And you're saying that the organization doesn't meet our criteria. You're not saying that it's a condemnation nor an endorsement of the charity, but you're talking about doesn't meet criteria. What sort of criteria are we talking about?
So if you take a step back and look at the nonprofit sector, it consists of over 1 million charities. We rate 8,000 or so of the largest charities in America, and they have to fit a variety of criteria in order to be a good fit for our rating methodology. The Clinton Foundation has spun off and brought in some of its affiliates over the years, and because of that, if we tried to rate it with our methodology, it would give a skewed profile. We do have them currently on our watch list, however, because of a lot of the scandals and concerns that have been brought out in the media in recent months.
But let us make it very clear that it is neither a condemnation nor an endorsement of the charity. You state that on the website. It merely is criteria and a methodology that you look for all of the various business models. I want to make that very clear. By the way, we've given everybody a lot of ideas here. Now let's tell them where to go. It's worth a stop at charitynavigator.org to see how your favorite charities stack up. It's a way to go ahead and check what they are, who they are, what they're doing, and to look for the scams. Don't give over the phone. Be very careful who approaches you, because these are scams that are out there for millions of people. By the way, I'm told it's charitynavigator.com, not .org. Correct myself. Sandra Miniutti, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's hope we get the message out and save some people a whole lot of money and a whole lot of trouble.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Take care. Check, and double check. Make sure, because you can do it. It's out there. The Hard Line continues.